Welcome to the Property Elite podcast. I'll be your host, Jen Lehman, chartered surveyor and co-founder of Property Elite. Stay tuned each week for more on industry hot topics, market updates and new RICS guidance. In this week's podcast, I take a look at the three components of break options in commercial leases. You can read my introduction to break clauses in a previous blog article. Have a look at our website blog. In a future podcast, we'll take a look at conditions precedent and other issues relating to break options. You can also read more in our research paper on break options in the free resources section of our website. So, a quick overview of break clauses. Starting with first principles, break options are purely governed by the terms of the lease, although case law aids interpretation of ambiguous lease wording. There's no standard form of break clause as the specific wording is agreed between the parties and will reflect their respective negotiating strengths. Where a break is validly exercised, the lease terminates on the break date, and the tenant has no future liability under the lease. A claim for damages may still be made by the landlord in respect of past breaches, however. There is no unilateral right to withdraw a validly served break notice, although a landlord may waive a validly served notice. A break clause must incorporate three key components: the break date, beneficiary, and requirements for service of notice. So when is the break date? A break option may be exercised on a specific date or on a rolling basis. See Adams v. Green and another 1978, although investors tend to resist the latter as they provide little income security. Ideally, the lease should expressly state the break date or dates, as problems may be encountered with a dates calculated by stated formula, as the lease date and term commencement date may differ. See Train UK Limited v Provident Mutual Life Assurance 1994. In respect to the date for giving notice, the courts are reluctant to hold that notice must be served on a specific date, unless there's an express provision to the contrary that makes time of the essence. See Hexstone Holdings v AHC Westlink 2010. So, next up, who is the beneficiary of a break option? The beneficiary is the party who may exercise the break option, and this should be expressly stated within the lease. Where the lease is silent, only the tenant may operate the break, as per Dan v Spurrier, 1803, and Fallon v Robbins, 1865. In the absence of an express provision to the contrary, the beneficiary will be both the original party and any successors in title. Where a lease is assigned by the original beneficiary, the benefit and burden of a break will pass to the assignee due to the operation of common law, and either Sections 62 and 142 of the Law of Property Act 1925, where the lease was granted prior to 1st of January 1996, or Section 3 of the Landlord and Tenant Covenants Act 1995 for new leases. In essence, this precedent means that restructuring a company or an active asset management program may render a personal break invalid, with subsequent reassignment back to the original tenant not being of assistance, as per Edwards and Crendell 2007. The well-advised tenant should therefore expressly provide for the benefit to break to be transferred in any license to assign, although this will not be possible if it is a non-transferable personal option. Specifically, in the Linpack case, it was held that where a break is personal, the tenant should seek to sublet, not assign, as this is likely to retain the personal right to break. So, moving on, what are the requirements for serving a break notice? When serving a break notice, two key questions must be considered. What are the requirements of the relevant clause, and have those requirements been satisfied? The mechanism for service may be mandatory or permissive. Where mandatory, the mechanism must be strictly abided by, following Capital Land Holdings versus the Secretary of State for the Environment 1996. Interestingly, in the Blunden and Frogmore Investments case in 2002, a notice sent by recorded delivery was held to be valid, even though it was later returned in the post. To avoid doubt, it is prudent to instruct a process server to ensure that a notice is validly served. The service of break notice is governed by Section 196 of the Law of Property Act 1925. This applies whether it's expressly stated within a lease or where the lease is silent unless there is express wording to the contrary, as per the case of Enfield London Borough Council versus Devonish 1997. The Law of Property Act 1925 states that a notice is sufficiently served if it's left at the last known place of abode or business in the United Kingdom of the lessee, lessor, mortgagee, mortgagor, or other person to be served, or, in the case of a notice required or authorised to be served on a lessee or mortgagor, is affixed or left for him on the land or any house or building comprised in the lease or mortgage, or, in the case of a mining lease, is left for the lessee at the office or counting house of the mine. Or, if it's sent by post in a registered letter addressed to the lessee, lessor, mortgagee, mortgagor, or other person to be served by name, at the aforesaid place of abode or business, office or counting house, and if that letter is not returned by the postal operator concerned and delivered, that service shall be deemed to be made at the time at which the registered letter would be in the ordinary course be delivered. Few. Where the provisions of Section 196 are expressly excluded, common law rules apply whereby a notice is deemed as served only if it has been received by or if it has come to the attention of the recipient. And there's two cases here that are relevant: Holwell Securities and Hughes 1974 and Singer v. Trustee of Monroe 1981. Thanks for listening to the Property Elite podcast this week. Head to our website to check out our full blog, free and paid support resources and services, free consultation for every single RICS APC and ASOC RICS candidate, and also ask us any questions you have via the website chat blog. See you next week.